Psychic Matters with Théato, the top-ranked spirituality podcast.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. Today, I have a truly special guest with us. Jason Goldsworthy is a renowned medium and spiritual teacher who has dedicated his life to bridging the gap between the physical and spiritual worlds. From a young age, Jason has sensed the presence of deceased loved ones around him, but it wasn't until the heartbreaking loss of his own brother that Jason fully embraced his spiritual gifts and began his journey as a medium. Jason's work is deeply inspiring, providing proof that life continues beyond death and guiding countless individuals on their spiritual paths. He has shared his talents through workshops and courses and mentorships, both in person and online, demonstrating with esteemed mediums such as Mavis Patilla, Paul Jacobs, and Kitty Wood, among many others. His passion has taken him to beautiful countries like Canada and England, Ireland, Finland, and Austria, touching lives and spreading his message of hope and spiritual growth. And Jason's journey is a testament to the unique gifts each of us possesses, waiting to be discovered and nurtured. Today, we are honoured to have him share his experiences, insights, and wisdom with us. Jason, welcome to Psychic Matters.
Thank you, Anne. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, bless you. It's really lovely that you've made time, Jason. I know you're incredibly busy out there in the world. Maybe we can start, Jason, by you telling us about the moment you realised you had these spiritual gifts and maybe how the loss of your beautiful brother played a pivotal role in that realization.
Well, I mean, like you said in the introduction, in the beginning as a child, I was always very sensitive and I was always aware of the spirit world around me. Only my family, my mother, and they didn't really understand when I kept knocking on their door at 3 o'clock in the morning when we moved into this old house. And I said, there's all these people in my room queuing up by my bedside. In the beginning, my mother would come in and check the closet because they were all queuing up out of the closet towards my bedside. And I remember her saying one time, look, it's just a dream. It's just a dream. Let it go. It's just a dream. Put the pillow over your head and you won't see them anymore. And so I did. And so my whole life after that was really switching off to the spirit world because it wasn't normal. Well, like you mentioned, when my brother passed to the spirit world, he was never a guy that really could keep a secret, my brother. First moment he was in the spirit world, he was going to let me know, hey, guess what? Life continues. And I was like, okay, prove it. So he did. And it wasn't a medium that proved to me that the spirit world existed. It was my brother. He did everything within his power to make me realize that he was there.
What sort of things was he doing then?
Well, there was this when I was on the plane. I was heading over from Holland to England, and I had the aisle seat, and in this ear, all I was hearing was all this like someone was whispering in my ear. And every time because I was falling asleep, I kept waking up, looking in the aisle, couldn't see anyone. And it kept happening. And I kept feeling I was being touched. And I thought, well, who's playing around with my seat? And someone was poking me in the side. And I kept looking at the guy behind me quite angrily, like saying, what's going on? But he wasn't, he was asleep. He wasn't moving. So all this was going on when I was just on my way there. When I got there, I think one of the first or second nights I was sleeping there, I was woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning with this energy going through my body. I couldn't explain it. It was like this really strong energy, but through the energy that was traveling through my body, it was like the feeling of music running through my veins. That's how it felt. I've never had that experience before this. And it was like, all I kept hearing was, wake me up. And then this round for music. So I had so much energy at that moment in time, which I didn't want to have at 3 o'clock in the morning. But because this was all going through, I ended up cleaning my whole mother's kitchen, which she didn't find that bad. Made myself a cup of tea. Couldn't wait till 5 o'clock in the morning to wake up my sister and say, Emily, you've got to find this music. And she said, what music is it? I said, it goes like this. Wake me up. Like this. Wake me up. And turned out we ended up looking through his CDs at 5 o'clock in the morning, what had been left behind, until we could find that music. And it was Evanescence, Wake Me Up Inside. I had never heard it before. Well,
Wow.
that was for me like, okay, that was a waking up moment in itself. But then after that, he ended up doing the same to my sister. And my wife, who didn't believe very much in mediumship at the time, was woken up with another one of his favorite songs, which was Another Train by the Posies, I think. She was woken up, I was going through it, and she rang me up really early in the morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning. I was in England, and I thought it must have been 4 o'clock there. And she said, look, you've got to find this, because she'd heard about the first, you've got to find this song because he's got to let me sleep now. And and so after that was found, yeah, everything quieted down. And what he ended up doing, Anne, was choosing his music for his funeral after he passed to the spirit world.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, yeah. He managed to do that to me, my sister, my wife, inspired his girlfriend. I don't know whether he kept her awake or, but as well. And his funeral was designed around the music he brought through after he passed.
How beautiful. What a lovely, lovely thing to do. Did he manifest in other ways? Did any other signs or signs of his existence come through at that time?
Apart from him wrecking my mother's computer, because that's the first thing. She'd get on the computer and there'd be a ghost in the machine. I don't know if you've seen that film, but it was like it was suddenly her computer was possessed and was doing everything that wouldn't normally do. And every time she took it to the computer guy, he'd say, "Nothing wrong with it. It's fine." And so that was something he'd do to let her know that he was around. There was also another time I was standing.
Slightly irritating, if I may say.
Oh, trying to send an email, and something else happens.
Yeah.
But he'd do everything because like music was his thing. So whenever I got in a car, his music would come on. And I thought, but this is the top 40. It shouldn't be coming on now because he
Yeah.
wasn't top 40. He was more, different sort of music, a bit of
Yes.
alternative. And one time I was standing just in a room on my own, and I think it was a few days before we actually were going to have his funeral, just standing on my own, contemplating, and all of a sudden I just felt this hand on my shoulder and this feeling of someone playing with my hair. Well, I think he played with it too much because it's
Oh, bless.
but yeah, and so it was like a physical touch, and I was like, and I just knew he was there, not having any training, any mediumship training. I just knew he was there. And when I mentioned this physical touch to his girlfriend at the time, she said, yeah, she was feeling it as well. And then I mentioned it to my sister, and she said, yeah, he's been messing around with my hair as well. And so there was this common theme that was going on. And what I found out, what he ended up proving to us, it didn't matter whether I was in Holland, my sister was in Wales, and his girlfriend was in south of England. At the same time, he could be in all these places, making his presence aware at the same time in less than a few days after less than a day after he passed to the spirit world.
Yeah, that's amazing. What beautiful, beautiful stories and a lovely way that he came to communicate with you. So that those things were going on and that was happening. So what made you go and explore being a medium? Did you know what being a medium was at that point even?
Well, I knew Reiki. I'd learned this Reiki healing, and I just learned how to do that. And the moment that I did that, and then there was all this going on with me, I went back to my Reiki master and said, "Well, I keep having all these people standing behind me." I said, "What's going on?" Because after my brother like, woke me up, it was like there's all these spirit people standing behind me. So I went to it. I said, look, I'm doing the Reiki, but there's all these people standing behind. What do I do with that? He said, yeah, I don't really do that. I do energy work. You need to go and see a medium. And I go, what's a medium?
Yeah.
I had no clue. Um, he said, oh, well, I know someone that's a medium. Why don't you go and see her? So I thought, okay, go and see this medium. A couple of weeks passed before I could get an appointment. And meanwhile, I had all these people standing behind me, and I thought I'll try and run 5 kilometers to get rid of them. Little did I know, when you got to the end of the 5 kilometers, got home, they're still there.
Yeah.
And I got to her, I said, but who's this guy that keeps standing behind me? And when I got to the medium, she said, oh, well, that's your guide. You can't get rid of him. I was like, oh, what's a guide? And then she mentioned that a guide was someone that's always going to be there the rest of your life. So I thought to myself, well, there's no point running all this 5 kilometers to try and get rid of him then, is there? Because he's going to be there. So the spirit world, once I was open, couldn't wait to let me know that they were there and that I had to do something with it. So after seeing her and being, I was, I've always been very critical about mediumship and that sort of thing. I think years ago, my mum, I think it was Channel 4 or something, there was Mavis Patilla on the television, and my mum said, "You got to watch this medium. She's really good." I said, "Mum, what are you watching now?" And she said, "Well, look," and she said, "Look, she is really good," and she brought through information. It was all really lovely, and I said, and it was spot on. I said, yeah, there's a lot in that. Anyway, I'm off down the pub. And that was my mentality back then, just to enjoy life and not worry about the afterlife. So things changed along the way that I started opening up more. I thought I'm going to find a medium that's really down to earth, that's going to tell me it's not, this is not what I really, I'm not open to this sort of thing. So I went to Circle, this one Circle. I thought a Circle was a place where you could get a reading. Little did I know I'd have to do something.
How did you find the circle, Jason?
Well, I back then, I think we had like online chat rooms
Yes, that's right.
and there was spiritual chat rooms, and this one lady in this chat room, all of a sudden I was just spurting out stuff. I don't know, just I thought it was me. But she said, "You're a medium." So I'm a what? She said, "You're a medium because the information you're given is spot on." And I was like, must have been psychic or something. Um, and she said, "No, you need to come to this circle because you're a medium." So, okay, well, I'll come to the circle. So I went to that circle. And when I got to that circle, this really, I'll say, flashy guy, he was really, well known in Holland back then. He was like, "Oh, you're fantastic. You're a fantastic medium. Welcome to my circle. You're a brilliant medium." And I said, "Well, he keeps going on about this medium business. I don't know what a medium is." So I sat down in circle thinking, well, anyway, I'm going to get a reading. That's what I thought. And I sat there and he said, "Right, so what you got to do is I want you to sit opposite each other in pairs." So I sat opposite this lady and he said, "Right, Jason, I'd like you to go first." And I looked at him and I went, "Yeah, but what do I do?" "Oh no, you're a fantastic medium. You can do all you need to do is just throw your energy up, connect to the light, and just say everything that comes out of your mouth." Okay, so I threw my energy up, what I thought I was doing, throwing my energy up. I thought I don't know what I was doing. And in the end, the lady was sitting opposite me and I was spurting out information about her life, her brother that had passed to the spirit world, information about him that I couldn't know. And it was really lovely information, apparently, only I had no clue what I was saying. And at the end, she was in tears and she said, "I just need to know, how do you do this?" And I looked at her, I said, "I don't know, I'm sorry." And she looked really puzzled. "How do you not know what you're doing?" So when I told this to this guy that was running the circle, he said, "Oh, but I told you you're a fantastic medium." And I thought, this is the last time I'm coming here. So I walked out the door. I never went back to that circle
Oh,
again
what a shame. Why did you think I'm not coming here?
because I was too skeptical. And I thought, no, he's telling me rubbish. He's making it too So I went to find another medium that would tell me it straight. And I heard through reputation that if you go to Paul Jacobs for a reading, he won't tell you to continue down this pathway. So that's who I need. I need that medium. So I traveled to Hanover, went to Paul Jacobs to have a reading. Very shortly, he said, well, I'd say that you'd have a talent and you could take it forward and work on that talent. He said you might find it a bit strange, but you could take it forward and work on this talent. And I thought he really brought it in a really short, down to earth sort of way. And I said, oh, I said, where can I learn this? And he said, well, there's the Arthur Findlay College, and there's Jose Goschalk in Holland. So I thought I'd check out the Arthur Findlay College. So I ended up going to the Arthur Findlay College to check it out. And Paul was there that week. And I didn't really go for him or any other tutor. I just went there because I thought, I've got to be here to find out what is going on with me. And within me, I had this sort of like feeling of, okay, I've got all this stuff that I know, but I don't know how I know, and I don't know how it works. And I was really looking for really good information that would tell me what's going on and what am I and who am I? I just thought it was a bit strange, you know. So ended up in the Arthur Findlay College, and I thought, right, so I signed myself down for the beginners because that's how I felt. And before I knew it, I was put in the intermediate group. And I asked her, well, what's happened? I thought I was going in the beginners, and what I was told was that the mediumship was just under my skin. It just needed to be coached out. And so I remember it well. I was in the group with Janet Parker, and she said, Jason, can you just get me that whiteboard and put it here on the stage? And I said, yeah, sure, Janet, no problem. So I got that whiteboard, put it on the stage. While you're here, get us a link.
Oh, they always do that at the AFC.
And I was like, yeah, but I've only get a link for somebody here. Yeah. I said I've only done a one-to-one thing. Yeah, well, it works the same way. You know how to connect to spirit, and you just do what you normally do. So I got information and it just flew out. I mean, it was like loads of information, and nobody could take it. So I looked at Janet and I said, see, I told you, I knew it. I found out I'm rubbish. I'm no good to the spirit world. I'm no good for anybody, and done. And she said, no, Jason, stop right there. You've just said too much information. Now break it down from the beginning and take it from the start. I took it from the start and broke it down. I started to learn structure. And so it was, okay, so I've got a lady here and feels like mother, and brought it well down bit by bit and said, no, look, see, you've got two people that can understand this information. And then I brought this bit of information and that bit of it. Turned out only two bits of the information were not correct. So I was a little bit next to the information. So because I'd given it all out in one go, not knowing, and my colleagues there said, well, you've got a talent. You should be taking this further. Well, all I know is through Janet Parker's coaching, and I think at the time Paul was the head tutor, was running the course, and through them trusting, all of them trusting I think I probably demonstrated 30 times that week, and I thought to myself, I'm a demonstrating medium now. I've only been a week to the college. But I was in front of 80 people at one time. Jose Goschalk was there guiding me through. I was bringing through information. I couldn't believe how that information can get down to one person out of 80 people. And it was actually me doing it. I couldn't believe it. And so having that experience on that week, I came home and I said to my wife, I'm changed. I can't wait to go back. She said, I'm pleased to see you. I said, can't wait to go back. And she was like, there's something wrong with him because he should be happy to see me. He hasn't seen me for a week.
Yeah.
But my spirit and soul had been touched by the spirit so many times that week. Something had changed in me that would never, ever return to normal. And it was like a belief in me that on soul level had shifted so much that I had changed. And after that, I wasn't doing the same things that I wanted to do. It wasn't wanting to go to every party. I was getting more selective. It was like I ended up looking and reading more books, and I was always reading spiritual books, but never really into the mediumship. And so I wanted to read books like the one from Arthur Findlay on the edge of the etheric. And I was reading that because I liked it. It was complicated. How many ways can you describe that you can being a circle scientifically with protons and neutrons? I was like, oh, this is good. And when I tried to explain it to my wife, she was like, she'd glaze over and say, it just wasn't interesting for her.
Yeah.
And so something had changed. And that change was I was now in search of knowledge and in search of, yeah, just really almost how concrete evidence can you get that the spirit world exists? I mean, the first moment my brother woke me up and made me realize that the spirit world existed, I knew that my job now was to let other people know that life continues and we're eternal and we have got an individual soul that will never die. And
Yeah.
that's what I knew. Just
It's just
didn't know how I was going to do it. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic stories and wonderful memories there of your first experiences at the Arthur Findlay College. I was thinking about your mum, Jason, how she used to say when you were very small, put the duvet over your head and it will all go away. So years later, once you've gone to the Arthur Findlay College and you're bringing forward information for other people and you go back and you talk to your mother about this, what is her reaction?
Well, she was like, a bit like when I was a child. Oh, Jason, stop telling tall stories. You're always telling stories. And so she was in sort of in that non-believing stage until one day she came to visit me in Holland, and I was doing a demonstration with Lynn Cottrell at the Zwanenhof. And I was working through my pass at the time. You had to get so many things ticked off. And back in the day when I was doing the pass, it wasn't all this electronic online stuff. It was really, you had to do it in person.
This is, sorry, you've mentioned a couple of things there before you go on with the story, because people listening won't understand what you're talking about. So maybe I'll explain what the Zwanenhof is and the pass as well as you go along, so people can keep up with us.
So the Zwanenhof was a lovely monastery place where they held, like the Arthur Findlay, many courses on spirituality, mediumship. And so there were tutors from the Arthur Findlay coming there, and it was being organized for them to come.
And which country was it in?
In Holland.
In Holland.
And so it was really very similar to the Arthur Findlay College, how it was set up and being ran, and there was a Paul Jacobs there, and but Lynn Cottrell was there this time, and she was doing spirit art, and I was doing the demonstrating part of the spirit art. Thought, well, this is new, but never done it before, and it was amazing because I'd been watching I was watching information about cars and off-road car driving and racing, which I don't normally watch. And it was 2 days before the demonstration, and there's something about the special technique that you use when you're doing it. So when I got to demonstrate, Lynn was drawing this young gentleman that had passed the spirit world, and my mum was there watching. And I was saying, well, there's this young gentleman here, and explained his character, what he is, and how he loved life, and then Lynn mentioned something like, now we need to know how he passed. And I said, he passed with a car accident. There was only one person who could understand it. And I said, I know that he had two cars. And he said, what do you mean? He had one car that he would drive on the road, but he had another car that he had off-road. And he could do this special technique to go around corners, and he was very good at his off-drive. And I'm seeing many cups that he would have, and all this information was coming through, and it was all correct. And I was, again, as usual, so thrown back by how is this amazing that the spirit world can bring this information. Because whenever it's a really good demonstration or a really good evidence is coming through and life is really being proved to continue, I get really excited that the spirit world are doing this. And I never really look at myself. And it was after that time that my mum looked at me very proudly and said, "You're very good at what you do, aren't you?" And she acknowledged for the first time that the spirit world certainly do bring through information that is correct. Yeah.
That's quite mighty, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a very pivotal moment, I think. I had a similar pivotal moment, but my mother was 89 years old, Jason, before she asked me what I did. And when she finally asked me, it was a pivotal moment. I was like, oh, she's finally sort of accepting this is what I do. Although she did follow it up and let herself down by saying, oh, I think I'll continue to tell people you're a secretary. 'Tis easier. But that acceptance from your mother must have been very, a pivotal moment. Yeah.
Oh, it was. And it was so good that I had the opportunity to do that for her, for my pass. And the pass back then is really for the SNU, where you're working towards an award that basically is working towards a certificate in your mediumship, so that you can be like tested on your demonstration mediumship or tested on your speaking.
That's
And
right.
so,
And I'll just explain as well. The SNU is the Spiritualist National Union, and PAS, PAS, stands for Platform Accreditation Scheme. I'll just pop that in there, Jason.
well done, yes.
Thank you.
So that was one of the things I was doing at the time, which took me years because I wasn't into the online thing, and I don't think the online was really that far developed as it is today. I
No,
mean,
that's right.
like today, we're just looking at each other through computer screens. Back then, I had to dial up into through the phone bleepy thing that I could make myself a cup of tea and a sandwich, and then it might be connected, and I'd have Google, and then you type something in for search, and you eat your sandwich, you drink your cup of tea, and by the time you finished you've got a web page.
That's what it was like back then, wasn't it?
It was, yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
So you were doing your platform accreditation scheme, and it took you a while, but you attained that in the end, and that's a big thing to attain the platform accreditation scheme. It's no mean feat. You have to do well. When I did mine, it was 25 demonstrations of mediumship in spiritualist churches around the UK. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how it was for you, because interestingly, you live in a completely different country. Where you in Germany?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I don't know how that worked for you. What I mean by that is the availability of spiritualist churches in Germany compared to the UK. I don't know, how was that?
Well, there weren't any, which was great. So what I had to do is get in contact with head office and mention how I'm doing things. And I kept traveling to the Arthur Findlay College to get my book signed off whenever I was demonstrating or whenever I was doing things in a spiritualist church. So I'd come over to England and do a spiritualist church and let that get signed off. Or there was only one spiritualist church in Holland that I could do, and so I got them to sign it off. And the Sparnahof, the reason I was there as well was to get my book signed off for demonstrating or speaking. And so I had to travel a lot to get my 25 demonstrating moments and speaking moments. And that's what I did. I wanted to do it in real life in person because I thought, well, if I was gonna do it online, it wasn't very good online, and I didn't like the idea of doing it online. I wanted to do things in person. So that's what I did. I think I went to the Arthur Findlay College, I think 3 times in a year, one time, to get things signed off.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of expense and it's an awful lot of effort. And of course, you've got a young family, so it's time away from them as well. I think if anybody's listening to this, I just want to say that it is a lot better now, and that we do now have, since for quite a long time, but certainly much improved since COVID, the Spiritualist National Union International, the SNUI, and they do fantastic online courses for anybody who does want to learn. And they do a PAS, Platform Accreditation Scheme PASI, for those that want to study online. And actually, it's great now that the internet works well. So.
It is, and actually, I'm teaching myself. I teach on the SNUI teaching at the moment a course, Boost Your Confidence. So everyone needs a boost in their confidence within their mediumship. So the platform has certainly changed over the years, like dramatically.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And now you're a teacher there. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Well done, you. So, Jason, I know also you haven't been very well. Obviously, you're very well now today, but over the recent months, you've had some challenges, let's say, and struggles with your health, which has had an impact on your mediumship. And I know that we were going to talk about that. So, I'll lead us in, Jason.
Well, I've been having some problems, I think, since last year, about September last year, where I was feeling dizzy spells and not really feeling myself, and kept going backwards and forwards to the doctor to say there's something wrong, and they couldn't find anything. Health check was fine. In November, I started developing tinnitus, and I couldn't sleep and needed sleeping tablets, and there was things changing with my health rapidly, and I just didn't know what was going on. Kept going back to the doctor and getting the sleeping tablets and tablets to help me with the dizziness. And then at the end of December, I had this. All of a sudden, I felt really dizzy, and I got my colleague to measure my blood pressure when I was at work, because I work as like in nursing, so I'm working in nursing. And my colleague took my blood pressure, and it was 185 over 105 or something like that. And I thought, oh, that's not right. And I'd been measuring the patient's blood pressure that day. I said, theirs is better than mine, and they're 85. So I wasn't feeling good. I went to the doctor, they checked me out, and they decided to plan in within a couple of weeks that I'd have this 24-hour blood pressure test, and then they could get me on medication. By the time I got the test, I think it was about a week or two later, and this machine kept me awake all night, measuring my blood pressure. And in the end, they said, right, you do need tablets. So I got put on some tablets. And on the second day of taking these tablets, and it was in January, the end of January now, so towards the end of January, and I had the second day of taking these tablets, I was like, oh, I don't feel right. The first day I was feeling good. The second day I just felt really dizzy, not right. I thought I'll go for a little walk. Now, little did I know, my little walk ended up being 5K. And halfway around this 5K walk, which I thought was a little walk because my brain just wasn't working properly. When I got halfway, I was on this pathway, which was not a very well-traveled pathway, and it was like a track where it was uneven. And all of a sudden, I couldn't see properly, and I couldn't see my feet. I couldn't feel my feet. I thought something's not right. Everything was blurry. It was like I was walking in the clouds, and every step I was taking, I had to really concentrate on where I was putting my feet. And I thought, this is not right. Something's wrong. And at that moment, all of a sudden, I saw my brother standing next to me. And I thought, oh no, this can't be right. Because I thought, I can't be going now. I've got so much to do. And my brother, he used to call me bro, and he used to call me mate, but he says, oh, it's all right, mate. You're going to be okay. You don't need to worry. And I said, okay. So I had him speaking to me at the same time. At that moment, I had this divine light connecting to me, and this feeling of, I thought, oh, the presence of divine, the presence of God. And I thought, oh, this is amazing. And I felt like this feeling of utopia, unconditional love. But again, I thought, oh no, what if this is my moment? And these things flashed. I said, no, I've got so much to do. I need to be the father. I need to be the husband. I was thinking about my family, and I was thinking about the things that I said that I would do that I never did. And the people that I wanted to inspire in this lifetime, and the writing of a book, and all these things that popped in my head. I said, I'm not finished. And then out of that divine light, it was like this wonderful message just came through. Jason, don't worry. You're going to be taken to hospital. They're going to do all checks on you. They're going to check everything, and you'll find out they will find nothing. You will end up on tablets, but you will be fine. And so in that flash, and this was all happening, I think, within 5 seconds, I'm hearing the conversation from my brother, I'm hearing this divine. And at the same time, my higher consciousness, which is because myself, I was feeling the panic inside of me. And then my higher consciousness, the nurse higher consciousness of me was saying, Jason, just breathe gently, take one step at a time. And it was my higher consciousness was coaching me to take one step at a time at the same time. And so it was I'd never had an experience like this before where I'd been in touch with the divine, the spirit world, and my higher consciousness at the same time. The unconditional love didn't leave me, kept supporting me the whole way. I felt the love from the spirit world, and I felt myself being coached the whole way. I walked that pathway, which was 2.5 km back to home, walked in the front door, didn't say a word to my wife, walked to the telephone, picked up the telephone, and I rang the doctor to complain about the tablets. And so when I got the doctor on the line, the doctor said, what are you experiencing? I'm experiencing this and I'm experiencing that, and this is going on. These tablets are no good, though. They're certainly not good. He said, it's not the tablets, you need an ambulance now. And so my wife was cooking at the time, and I said, oh, we need to go to the hospital. And I had the doctor on the line. What? I said, oh, speak to the doctor. So I gave her the doctor, and the doctor said he needs to go to hospital now. He needs an ambulance. So she stopped cooking. She said, right, that's it. We're off. So we're with the car straight to hospital, got there, and the receptionist was really irritable at the time, was like, oh, well, whatever gives you the idea he's having a TIA? I mean, who gave you that idea? And she said, the doctor, he's faxing you, because in Germany, they work with faxes still.
Wow. Right.
Yeah, it's like, no, there's a fax coming. And when she checked the fax machine, she suddenly became quiet and said, okay, he doesn't need to wait in the waiting room, so take him straight through. And then I was sitting outside this room, realizing that my body was shutting down because I felt this feeling of my vision changing. I was looking at the wall. There was a door there that they were going to take me in and examine me. And I just felt I was going again, the panic was arising in within me, but I'm feeling this unconditional love, and I'm feeling my higher self saying, it's okay. You just breathe. Keep calm. If you keep calm, you won't go into shock. And so, okay, so I was breathing, keeping calm, staring at front. My wife couldn't believe it. She said to me, so it was like, every time I kept asking you, how are you doing? You said, no, it's fine, no problem. I was calm the whole time through all the procedures and all the scans they did on me and probes, and they put electrons on my brain to measure my brain waves. And I was going, no, they better not find something abnormal, because I'm a medium. So I was like, Jason, just think about normal things. Don't think about mediumship. Now, flashback to the Arthur Findlay College, I was on the science week, and they had probes on our brains, and they were getting us to do mediumship. And I was going, I hope they find something that's not normal, and then we can prove that the spirit world exists. So it was really a double moment at that moment. And so I'm there in hospital going, no, just breathe, stay normal. And so with all these tests, just like the divine said, they did all the tests. I had to stay in there in a week. They had to double my blood pressure tablets, get my blood pressure down. They got me on blood thinners and cholesterol reducing tablets. And so I needed to be on all these tablets, and this cocktail would keep me in balance, and it has done ever since. But it was like the experience of just having to let go of everything you've ever created, because you can't do anything. So you need to let go of your work, you need to let go of relationships, you need to let go of contacting people, you need to let go of your spiritual work. And I never knew, would I be able to do my mediumship again, or how would that be? And will I ever be able to do it? And will it work again? And because in those moments, I was just within inside of my body, and my body was basically, when I was lying down on the bed, when they were trying to get me adapted to these tablets, I was had blood pressure of 200 over 120, and the bells were going off in the ICU, in the intensive care unit, and my wife's going, "Oh, the bells are going off." So just don't look at them. It's all right. It's going to be fine. And so again, I was calm, but within that, I just felt that I was held and guided through the whole process, and through every single test I've had. To my frustration, it came back, we haven't found anything, and it was all good. And all the scans came back clear. And so they said the only thing it can be is a TIA, which is like a mini stroke. It's borderline stroke. It's where the blood has just really shifted very quickly and knocked everything into disbalance, and it's just not balanced at all. And yet I had to learn to walk again because I was too dizzy. I was leaning to one side. I was lopsided. Had to find the words again. And through therapy and physiotherapy, I managed to walk, because I was walking with one foot out and one foot forwards, and I didn't know I was doing it. So I had to have physiotherapy to connect my brain back to my feet, which worked. And now I'm having echo therapy, which is the Dutch name for occupational therapy. And occupational therapy is for the concentration and memory. And I've noticed it's been coming back. And so, yeah, that was my experience, where I realized that our consciousness, or our possibility of consciousness, we can connect not only to our higher selves, but to the spirit world and the divine at the same time, and yet be within your body, going through your humanness at the same time. So it was very much a duality of realizing that your physical body is very temporary, and yet your spirit and soul is indestructible and is always in communication.
That's just an incredible, extraordinary experience that you've had. And of course, it affected you for quite some time, as you say, physically trying to recover from that with your therapy to help you walk, and your cognition and things like that. And up to this moment this morning, where we're talking on this lovely sunny morning, how is all of that? Are you 100%, would you say? Are you still struggling a little?
Well, I think anyone that knows me would always say I'm never 100%. But physically, I feel that my body is a lot more. I've got a lot more things under control. My blood pressure is good, so I'm feeling good. The only thing that needs to be worked on is still the concentration and the memory, which is amazing, really, because I have been doing my mediumship and practicing and teaching, and I found that since it's happened, my sensitivity has just really, it's like it's full blown. So I tend to pick up a lot more and be a lot more open, even more open-minded to the spirit world and what they're bringing through. And so the sensitivity is increased tremendously, where I had to find, how can I do this, just deal with life with a lot of people or things like that. So I really had to find my way again. But within my mediumship, there has been a change where the presence of spirit comes through so much stronger through me than it did before. There's less of the mind there getting in the way. It was like a shift that's happened within the mediumship, which I thought wouldn't be. I had this fear that maybe it won't be the same, but it isn't the same in a lot of ways, but it's certainly become a lot more flow within the mediumship, where it's more the presence with the evidence, but the presence as well.
Would you say, Jason, we're taught as mediums to surrender to that which the spirit world want to pass through us for our recipient? And it's always about surrendering to the experience. And now that you've had this physical experience in this world, your ability to surrender to and accept and embrace the spirit world has increased because of your experience of having this 4-dimensional, I'm here in the physical, my higher consciousness is instructing me, the spirit world are here, my guide is here, my brother is here. It's like all these different consciousnesses supporting you. So would you say, what's my question? Would you say, therefore, that it's something to do with that, and that our human being just gets in the way all the time of our mediumship? So the more we can surrender, the better?
Absolutely. I believe that the more that you can surrender, the better you're going to be as a medium. And it's really your conscious mind's the only thing, when you get the information wrong as a medium, it's normally the conscious mind that's getting in the way, trying to work it out. When really, when your conscious mind is not involved and you're not having to work it out, it just becomes a flow of information, which is correct as it is. So the conscious mind could certainly mess it up for us. And it used to do that when I was learning as a student, going through mediumship. I was like, oh, I've got to get pictures. I've got to get pictures. I've got to get pictures. So I managed to get fantastic evidence through my pictures. So I was like focused on getting these pictures right. And I used to get some really fantastic evidence, but I just couldn't do anything with it because I'd be like, oh, he had a boat and he loved walking and he loved adventures. And I can see that he had a house and his house looked like this and he had this. But I became, as a medium, I became this fax machine of information. And yet there was no presence. There wasn't, the power was there, but it was very distant because all I was concentrating on was the pictures, which were very sharp and very correct. But then through my evolving in my mediumship and changing, it's become more the mix of the two.
Yeah.
But I found with the pictures, I used to get confused trying to work out what does the picture mean, instead of when receiving the picture, just saying, well, I'm seeing this. And then with the presence, you're feeling the story behind it. So it was like a marriage of the two, presence and evidence and pictures and however the information's coming through. I found it's changed over the years.
Just when you're speaking there, I can just feel into the softness of the letting go of the human being and just softly going into that beautiful light altered state that seems to be, and staying there and not panicking if something isn't your recipient isn't quite understanding the information, and just breathing and waiting for it to arrive instead of trying to be forward pushing. Oh, I must try and get this information. Let me see if I can work this out for you.
Yeah. So it's like, well, you're saying no to me, but just remember that I've said that and I'll just continue.
Yes, that's right.
And you just continue. And then all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, now I remember what that means.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
And it's so nice that, because we forget, I think when we're working with our conscious mind in combination with the mediumship, we're trying to get it all right. We're trying to put it in a box and we're trying to analyze it and bring meaning to it and maybe, package it a little bit. And so the conscious mind wants to do this. And also our conscious mind wants to help people. So obviously it wants to be of help. And so it tends to, if we get stuck in the conscious mind too much, it moves us away from the essence of the spirit communicator. It moves us away from that spark of essence of the communicator, so that presence. And so going back and releasing the conscious mind and expectations of I have to have it all worked out. It's very good to be the medium that hasn't got a clue what the message means, but yet the recipient knows exactly what it means.
And quite often we don't get to know, do we? We don't get that feedback. We just have to give what's said in the moment and forget about it and not try to, oh, I wonder if we were good enough. I wonder if this was right. And I think the most powerful readings that I've given recently have been, as you touched on so clearly, when the presence of spirit is felt by the recipient, not necessarily what they say or the memories that they bring, but when you can really feel them in the space with us.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. And so you've gone on, Jason, you've obviously you did your platform accreditation scheme. You've gone and done the certificate of the Spiritualist National Union, your CSNU, and now you've got your CSNUt, which means you are qualified to be a teacher of demonstrating mediumship and speaking inspired words. What's next for you, Jason, going forward? Where do you want to go and where do you see your path? You talked about the road less traveled that you were literally on, that track. I found that really interesting. You chose the road less traveled in order to, well, not that you did it consciously, I suppose, but which opened up your mediumship. And so, what is the road next that you're going to choose?
Well, I think in a lot of the ways, the road less traveled is the road that I'm going to be traveling. But again, the spiritualism itself has really given me it's given me a lot of help within my mediumship. If it wasn't for the Spiritualist National Union and having the Arthur Findlay and having that opportunity to learn, I don't think I would have been able to have trained my mediumship to such a high standard as I did, having the opportunity to go many times to the Arthur Findlay College. So in some ways, I am going to be traveling the road less trodden. So I'm always since this has happened, it's like someone will say to me in a class, a student will ask me, "Oh, what are we allowed to sit in the power before we give a reading?" Because one teacher said that you shouldn't do that because that's not good. And I said, I've got to tell you something. And this is how my brain has changed and how my is that every human being is unique and everyone's brain works differently. And so I said to the student, look, if sitting in the power works for you, then you're that person that has that sort of brain type where the power will help you relax and empower you and you'll give a better reading. But somebody else, and they said, but why did that teacher say that? And I said, well, because teachers can only teach from their own perspective. And so they're giving you their best advice that works for them. And yet when we look at individuals and people's brain waves and everyone's unique, then we need to look at everyone different in a different way. So in this way, I'm traveling the road that's less traveled because I see things differently. When I look at mediumship, it has become very much the list of information over the years. And so my experience, I've felt we need to let the spirit world step in more. I feel that there needs to be a shift more where the spirit world come in. I think the spirit world have been doing this for tens of thousands of years and they know exactly what they're doing. And if we just get out of the way and trust, I'm sure the spirit world will step in and show us how it's done. And that is where I differ from we need to have our mental mind working on the list. I didn't mention the relationship, or I didn't mention this, or I should have mentioned the way they pass, or I should have mentioned this. And yet, let's put it this way: we've got a communicator from the spirit world saying, "Oh, I'm so happy you're the medium. You're going to connect to my daughter. Please let her know I'm here. Right, tell me how you've passed." And she's like, no, but please, you're the medium. Just tell her I love her and I'm here to connect with her. And that I remember those times, and when she was holding my hand, that last moment, I could hear her words. Just tell me how you passed. And so the conscious mind is asking questions to the spirit world to get information, so that our concept of mediumship is we're getting the list correct. And yet, when you release to the spirit world and they will bring through the information that's needed so that their daughter or loved one can recognize them. And then they want to shift very quickly to, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here. I'm here for you, so that you know life continues. I'm okay. And I'm here to help you with your healing as well, that you can know that I'm eternal and I'm not dead. And that's where I feel mediumship has certainly got into this evidential, which evidential is good to find your recipient. But once you've found your recipient, then there needs to be a release and say, okay, let's bring you through now. What would you like to say, dear? What would you like to say? What would you like to bring through? And so I've seen many platform demonstrations. I've been in many spiritualist churches. I've seen many people work, and I feel that we're missing that unique, almost divineness to the connections that are being brought through from the spirit world. And there's a lot of what we just talked about, that mental mind. So this is my part of the road less trodden, like going into the magic of mediumship. Like, mediumship is magical. I mean, wouldn't you say, Anne? It's magical.
It's an absolute miracle. And the fact that we can speak to those people that are no longer here on earth and talk to them and have a two-way conversation, it is a miracle. But I don't think we take it as miraculously as we should. I did a demonstration in mediumship recently, and after I'd finished my demonstration, I was just asked if I wanted a cup of tea, which was lovely. Of course I did. Or a biscuit, yes. But nobody referred to what had just happened in that space, which was extraordinary. Some of the connections that you were able to connect this lady to that lady, and unbelievable. And it was not referred to at all. Like, oh, okay, let's just have a cup of tea now. And I just found that extraordinary. Not that you want someone to say, oh, what a marvelous demonstration of mediumship that was. It's not about that. It's about them acknowledging the spirit world and what they've done for the people that gathered in that space, that everyone was touched by that experience, and just acknowledge it. So it is a miracle, yeah.
Exactly. I'm sure we've all experienced when you're in spiritualist churches or spiritualist centers where mediumship is being done week after week, and then you go there and then you see the congregation falling half asleep before you even start.
I know.
And then I've got George here. It's your father coming through and say, "Oh, George is here again." Oh, yeah. How's George doing? And I like, even I think, when we look at this, like, we might be going to these spiritualist churches every week just to be a recipient, but it's still the miracle. And I myself went to, I went to visit my mum in Hereford, and I went to all these spiritualist churches because I thought, how wonderful is it to be a recipient or to be in the congregation instead of being the medium. And I had a fantastic time going in. And I think if we all go in with that, look at mediumship through child's eyes, like, oh, it's like the first time it becomes magical. And so I had a brilliant time, and the mediums didn't have to be 100% perfect for me. I could feel the presence of spirit, and I could see that spirit was working with them. And if they were using their conscious mind in their connections, it didn't matter. It was the whole experience of that wonderful unity of consciousness. And yet I saw this lovely lady, 85 years old, doing her mediumship. She was bringing through names, and her way of working was just bringing through names. I think she gave about 35 contacts in like 1.5 hours. And it was like, oh, got your mum here, Margaret, coming to you. she's still got the kettle on and she's just doing the and she just wants to say, look after your brother. Okay, right, I've got George here. And she just went and she went round the room and like almost everyone got a connection. I thought, this is not how we all of us have been trained. And yet some of the information she was bringing was phenomenal. And yet I went up to her afterwards and I said to her, I said, you're fantastic. I thought it was really good what you did. And I was really impressed. And she said, it's not me, love, she says. It was the spirit world.
That's right.
And she says, I don't need to be. And all I know is in her area, she'll be so well known. And yet for her, it's the most important thing was serving spirit.
Yeah.
And being that, just being that for people, being that. And so she won't have her name in neon lights. She won't be world renowned and she won't be traveling around the world. But her part in the whole cyclus of life was just to be that person on a community level that was proving that life continued just to her community. And she was happy to say, okay, I was here, but it's the spirit world.
Yeah.
And I said, that's fantastic, because that's exactly how I feel. And just what you mentioned there, Anne, it's like, weren't the spirit world magical? Weren't they amazing? Weren't they amazing? Yeah. So again, I will be traveling this pathway of discovery of how to find the more magic within the mediumship. How can it be done differently? How can it progress to becoming more than what it is? Because how wonderful would it be if somebody could bring some evidence from the spirit world, and yet you could feel your own loved one in the room at the same time, touching your shoulder, proving that life continues, not only from me, the medium, but from the spirit world as well. And how beautiful would it be if not only one person could feel that in a demonstration of mediumship, but the whole congregation could feel that presence of spirit. And so the evidence combined with the presence, combined with letting spirit speak. And I think that's where I'd like to travel further down my journey. But I'm still plodding forward with my studies, Anne. So I'm still plodding forward with that. So where it will take me, I don't know. I've started to look at life differently because I've done my CSNU in teaching, and now I'm just doing my DSNU writing work. It's been very difficult with the concentration and everything, but I've decided I'm not stressing out about when I get there or how I get there. It's all about the journey. And it's all about the journey. And it might take me a long time to get there, or it might take me a little time. But at the end of the day, it's about the journey, and it's about one step in front of the other. And I think that's one of the greatest inspirations that I've had from the whole experience with my health is I couldn't think about the future. I couldn't think about the past. All I could think about was this moment and how special it was just to be able to breathe and put one foot in front of the other. So I will be moving forward with my qualifications, but I will also be moving forward in self-discovery of the magic of mediumship and to try and bring them through with more of what I've just mentioned.
It is fabulous to talk about this because I could talk about it with you, and I'm sure I will after this podcast or many times, but this feeling of how it's changing, you speak of the magic of mediumship and how it's all changing. And I think it's really important. Well, this is my own opinion, of course. Take it as you will, listeners and Jason. It's not us as the medium and them as the congregation. It can't be that we are special and gifted and we shall therefore give you these messages because we are clever and special. It has to be this whole, have you described it beautifully, the magic of mediumship must be where spirit touch everybody in the space. It comes through us, of course, we're just a channel through which it comes through, but then it doesn't become the medium and the congregation. It becomes something experienced by everybody in that space. That's when we get I'm sure that's when we can move to the reverence and the sanctity and the miracle of what we're experiencing every time we do a demonstration. So it is getting away from chattering out the facts and the evidence, and they did this for a job and their personality was this and this is how they passed, this was the passing environment. Getting away from all of that and feeling spirit in the room and trying to touch, well, not trying to touch, allowing spirit to be present in everybody's heart and minds. And I love this. I think there's plenty of space for discussion around it if we only had time.
Absolutely, there is plenty, but this is like the evolution of mediumship itself, and when we can release to what the spirit world want to bring through, and let them bring their magic, and if we're open to it, I'm sure it will open up to all of us. I'm sure it will, and we'll be moving away from just the evidence. Obviously, evidence is needed to prove, because at the end of the day, when I first went to see a medium, I needed evidence. I was an evidence junkie at one time, and I think most people are. So, oh, I need the evidence, because I wanted it to be proved to me, to my mental mind. But what the spirit world wanted to say was completely different. And I think when you're in a congregation and you're, like you said, that magic of being with the medium, being with spirit, and we can all feel it and hear the evidence, and yet the atmosphere grows and we can feel the presence of spirit, that magic can happen for all of us, not just the recipient, not just the spirit world or the medium, but everybody. And yeah, it's like those droplets of inspiration that spirit world can bring us, because in a message for one person, there can be so much that might be just what you need to hear if you're open to it. So many messages are really enriched with more. Or even when we talk about the speaking, when our guides can come forward, or divine inspiration can come forward and speak, where everybody can be touched on a soul level and changed in a moment, in a flash, the magic of it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing, a miracle. So, Jason, if people want to come to you for some private coaching, do you offer that? Well, I know that you offer private coaching, mentorships, courses and classes. Tell us a little bit about your website, where people can find you, and the types of things that you're offering.
So my website is jasongoldsworthy.com. And if you look that, you'll find it. The things I offer this year are a lot less than I've offered years before. I mean, because of my health, I need to keep my energy levels. So there will be the private one-to-ones and the mentoring if people need it. People can find me on the CSNUt, where I will be teaching there. And now and again, I'm going to be putting on these weekends where I'll be doing personalized weekends to help people shift in a whole weekend. But I'm keeping at the moment a lot of room for balance and healing for myself, which is something that I didn't do before, but is something that needs to be done. But next year I will be looking at doing some more online work. Certainly be open to doing more on YouTube, which I share with people, free questions and answers whenever they need it. But yeah, and I'll be looking at doing more courses in different countries, so traveling to people that need me to teach. That works better for me at the moment. So that's what I'm looking at the moment. So that's what I'm working towards.
Fantastic. And do you have a mailing list people can sign up to and get newsletters or something from you at the moment?
I've got a mailing list that they can sign up to me just by sending me an email to info@jasongoldsworthy.com. So that's info@jasongoldsworthy.com. And just mention mailing list, please. And I will certainly put them on the mailing list and keep them up to date of new and upcoming things that I'd like to share. And some of those things may even be free evenings of mediumship, or maybe a free inspirational talk, but obviously things that will be paid for as well.
Yeah.
So
Perfect. And of course, one of the things that you will be offering is a book, because I know that you're writing about this experience, are you not?
it's a journey, and because of my concentration, it's taking a while, but I have been writing about this experience. The book will be coming, but it's taking its time. Like I said, one step at a time, but it is coming, and it's going to be mentioning a lot of what I've mentioned about my shift in my consciousness, about my health, and how things have changed, which is going to be very inspirational for many. Plus, some stories about my past in more detail, how I changed and became a medium myself.
Fantastic. Can't wait to read that. But of course, that's still unfolding for you at the moment and still being written, isn't it? So,
Yes.
and we have the pleasure of demonstrating next to each other, I think, on the Mediumship Hour one Tuesday evening. So I'll looking forward to that. I can't remember what the date is, but I think it's later this year.
That's good. I'm not the only one that can't remember, but yeah,
No.
I'm looking forward to it this year.
Yes, I'll put it in the show notes, everybody, so you can find out when that is. But do get in touch with Jason, get on his mailing list so that you can be kept informed of everything that he's up to, because you're an absolutely fascinating person to talk to, Jason, and a very supportive tutor and incredibly encouraging. And you hold so much knowledge. And the reason you hold so much knowledge is due to your passion and your dedication to the topic over the years. So thank you so much. Thank you very much for joining us here today. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you for having me, Anne. And I just really appreciate all the time and effort that you've put in on these podcasts. And I know so much time and effort goes into it. So thank you so much, not just from me, but I think also from the spirit world as well, for doing this service. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
You have been watching the Psychic Matters podcast with Théato, the only podcast to push forward the boundaries of human consciousness to redefine the significance of living. Subscribe now so you don't miss future episodes.